Divyank Turakhia may be the most successful technology billionaire you've never heard of. Now on BBC World News, the entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million web companies shares his journey from a normal Mumbai apartment to creating a global online empire. Another of India's tech titans.
Divyank Turakhia hasn't built just one multi-million-dollar technology business. He's built 3. A business journey from humble start to flying into India's elite billionaire club.
Was worth about $1 million when I was 18. Was worth over 100 million when I was 23. Got to $1 billion plus at 34. Hopefully we'll do more.
What makes this young internet billionaire tick? And where does it go from here as he steps down from his 3rd company at 37? Will Divyank Turakhia try for a 4th technology success? Mumbai, a city of dreams. In India's commercial capital, they say anyone can achieve anything. Its poverty is legendary, but now, more recently, it's becoming known for its wealth too. This is the story of one of the chosen few, Divyank Turakhia, a Mumbai boy done good. Together with his older brother Pavin, they've had one tech hit after another. It's brought Divyank a jet-set lifestyle, homes in London, Mumbai, LA and Dubai, and a lot of time spent traveling, often flying his own plane. He's acquired all this through hard graft and an uncanny knack for spotting new, initially niche markets and taking them mainstream. But it wasn't always like this. Divyank lived in a 1-bedroom flat in apartment blocks like these in central Mumbai. It was a humble beginning.
We came from not wealthy family at all. So if you go back when at the very beginning, so when I was born, in my initial years, my dad, prior to me being born, had moved from Gujarat to Mumbai, and he had moved into his brother's house, which was a 1-bedroom apartment. There were basically 8 of us, so my dad's family and his brother's family, all in a single apartment. That was the beginning.
Divyank was an average student at school, and this was a time when the internet had not even come to India. What most kids were obsessed with, Divyank and his brother being no exception, was playing video games. Their father didn't quite approve.
When he saw us playing video games and spending a lot of time doing that, somehow he came up with a logic, and he spoke to me about it and us about it, that hey, if you want to get better playing these video games, if you learn how to program them, then you can understand how they work. And if you understand how they work, then you can get better at them. That logic kind of made sense to me.
To start the boys off, their father gave them a small loan.
ये समय सर्वर हायर करने के लिए उसका 3 महीने का किराया था वो, तो उसको लिए 25,000 की ज़रूरत थी। मैंने सब 25,000 रुपया लिया, उसने दिया, और एक सर्वर में करीबन 400 वेबसाइट होस्ट कर सकते हो। एक वेबसाइट का वो 1,000 रुपया चार्ज करता था, तो उसको 3 महीने में 400 वेबसाइट मिल गई, तो उसको 4 लाख रुपया कमा लिया 25,000 के सामने।
Early on, I loved business, I loved tech, I loved data, I loved finance in general. So I wanted to drop out and just learn and stay focused on figuring out what I wanted to do and start working full time. And my mom, you know, most Indian parents, was like, oh my God. She started freaking out about me wanting to drop out, and said that, look, I mean, get a degree, get some degree. I don't care which degree. And that basically meant that instead of going down the science, technology, IIT path, I basically picked BCom, because if you, which essentially is something that as long as you appear for the exams, you end up getting a distinction.
पहले क्या सब लोग बहुत पढ़ते हैं ना, झुपड़पट्टी के बच्चों भी, वो माँ सोचती है कि मेरा बेटा MBA बने, तो मेरे को लगा कि नहीं, उसको पढ़ना तो चाहिए। पढ़ने से मतलब ज़्यादा ज्ञान मिलता है वो उसमें ज़्यादा सक्सेस मिलते हैं.
Success came quickly for the Turakhia brothers. The business they set up, building and hosting company websites, was just what the market was looking for. The company, DirectEye, quickly grew into something much larger than anyone could have imagined.
They did a smart thing. They decided to set up a website hosting and a domain name registry because they understood that most of the businesses would want to go online, if not now, 5 to 10 years from now. So they would be the hosting behind it.
People needed the basics of internet access. They needed to buy a domain name, they needed to build a website, simple tools to host, etc., etc. And a lot of people actually made money, the early entrepreneurs made money in some of these simple things which needed complex technology, which needed a great execution. And I think these people have executed quite well.
It took us 6 years to get to our first 100 employees. 12 months after, we had 200 employees. So just to add the next 100 took us only 12 more months. In 12 more months, we were at 450 people across the various businesses.
Things were going well, and in 2005, Divyank was ready for success number 2. And this time, he was breaking out of India and going into Dubai. The new company, Skenzo, gave advertisers a way of targeting customers more precisely on the internet. It was another right company, launching at the right time.
One that I started in 2005, I started with 15 people, again bootstrapped capital, so it was barely any money. The things that I did in it worked out really well. So at the end of year 1 itself, from the 15 people, I'd grown to 100 people in terms of team size, and that business had become the fastest growing business worldwide in that industry segment. And we were making more than $10 million in profit a year. And at the end of year 2 in that business, we ended up making more than $20 million in profit a year.
And so began an international jet-setting lifestyle. The big boys of Indian technology often don't live in India. They go from one location to another, often in their private jets, in what can easily be described as a republic of no borders. Divyank spends up to 80 days a year flying on this private jet. In fact, Divyank, like many before him, became more comfortable working outside of India and its infamous bureaucracy.
At the very beginning, we also ran into lots of grassroots level problems that existed out of India. Many of them don't exist now, some of them still do. That made it hard to run a global business sitting right out of India. You needed to figure out how to set up elsewhere also. One of them, for an example, was I could charge my US customers only in Indian rupees if I wanted to charge them via credit card, which was really hard, right? Think about it. If I want to charge $9.99 to my customer, I have to charge the Indian rupee equivalent. There are 3 banks in the middle that will basically add some conversion rate. So eventually on their credit card statement, they'll see a random number, which is not $9.99. So there were lots of problems like that existed, which basically meant that even though the business is really online, we needed to figure out what a global structure would look like.
Then in 2010 came his biggest success yet. As social media conquered the world, Divyank's new company Media.net was offering advertisers full-service answers to reach customers across the rapidly changing media space. Divyank took the lessons from launching the first 2 businesses and much of the capital from selling them and put it into Media.net, a gamble which paid off handsomely. Media.net was the 3rd business he sold for some $900 million. In 2016, at the age of 34, he became a full member of India's Billionaires Club, a long way from the few $100s his parents lent him.
Started with $500 with my brother when I was 16. Was worth about $1 million when I was 18. Was worth over $100 million when I was 23. Got to $1 billion plus at 34, and hopefully we'll do more.
ये तो never ending लगता है ऐसा, कि आगे बढ़ना है, जितना भी आगे बढ़ना है तो बढ़ते ही रहेंगे। और दिव्यांग को ख्वाहिश बहुत ज़्यादा है, वो दोनों को है, भाविन को भी है, पर दिव्यांग मोर एम्बिशियस। अभी तो जो अचीव किया है वहाँ से डबल अचीव करेगा।
You know, they've been like I can't think of anybody else who's made this much money in the technology space by being completely below the radar. You would rarely hear about DirectEye or MediaNet founders. Very rarely they'll appear in the press. You know, and they had no you know, funding or venture capitalists also associated. They probably never needed the press or any attention. So, you know, below the radar, these people have just executed. They lead a reasonably, particularly Divyank leads a reasonably high-flying life, and yet you would rarely hear about these people, you know, very, very rarely. So I think, you know, it's an incredible achievement. I think they probably made more money than, let's say, founders of Flipkart or Paytm, and yet, you know, you'd rarely hear about them, right? It's an incredible story. I think they're not done yet. They're very young, and if they've been able to achieve this much by now, you know, I'm actually quite curious to know what's next by them.
There's always a plan, right? You always have your 10-year plan, you always have your 5-year plan. The plan is very fluid because you can't, the idea is you want to focus on growth, but you want to be able to pivot as many times as necessary in order to get there.
After a $900 million deal, Divyank continued to run Media.net until the end of 2018. He now wants to focus on other areas of his life.
Wealth means happiness. My goal of life and the journey of life for me is always about how do you ensure that when you look back, there were more days that you were happy than you were not. And I got very lucky that I understood that when I was 5 or 6. So it's a very weird thing. I don't have negative emotions. I'm only happy. So no matter what goes wrong, it doesn't affect me.
Will this newly minted billionaire fly into the sunset quietly with $1 billion in his pocket? Or is there a bigger deal that comes after this? Can Divyank do it for a 4th time?